Kia ora everybody, I'm Ash, and in today's video we're going to talk about sociology, the basic concepts of sociology, specifically 8 principles of sociology, teeny tiny bit of history. So grab your coffee, grab your cup of tea, grab your water, grab a notebook. I've got my coffee here and let's get into the video. So, why am I qualified to teach you about sociology? Well, first of all, probably not, but what I do have is a master's degree in sociology, and maybe I'll get that framed one day. Maybe I'll do a PhD one day, I don't know. And this was by research, so it's on social media as a new age religion. I talked a bit about that in my first video. And I have tutored a range of sociology classes, tutored some classes in the humanities department, and also given lectures and things like that. So hopefully we do okay today. I was also once told that I could explain things really simply. So like, for example, tutors will often tell you to be able to explain something so that a 5-year-old could understand a really complicated theory or something complex, and I was told by my tutors that I could, when I was an undergrad, that I could do that. So hopefully I do you guys justice today, and hopefully you go away learning something. I love sociology and I miss teaching it, and I just want to help educate people and give you my knowledge that I have, because it's all in my brain and I've got to put it somewhere. So I'm going to be completely transparent. I do not have a photographic memory, so I have my laptop and I have a bit of a script. So I do apologize in advance if I look down too much. I am trying my best not to do that because I know it's quite hard, but let's take a look at the definition of sociology. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go to Wikipedia. Now, Wikipedia should never ever be your source for anything, especially at university, tertiary level, college, whatever you call it. But it is a good starting point if you want to understand a concept in the most simplest way, and you can also be a little bit sneaky and go to the bottom of the Wikipedia article and have a look at their references, and sometimes they have really good ones, sometimes you can find an even better one for what they're saying as well. So please only use Wikipedia if you are struggling to understand something or it's a starting point for you. Don't put it in your essays. I had students do that to me when I was tutoring and I wasn't happy about it. It just doesn't look like good academic work, but if you want to understand a concept, it's a good starting point. It's like an online encyclopedia, but you have to remember that it's just random people putting the information on there, so you need to look at the sources, see if the information is correct. So what is sociology? Let's take a look at the Wikipedia example. So sociology is the social science that focuses on society, human social behavior, patterns of social relationships, social interaction, and aspects of culture associated with everyday life. Or more simply put, the scientific study of people and how things are interrelated and interconnected. I like to think if we're interested in people, if we're interested in society, if we're interested in the world, we're all social scientists in some way. If you're analysing the movie you're watching, or if you're analysing whatever comes up on your TikTok feed, you are a sociologist or social scientist, whatever you want to call it. If you are going out and being like, oh, what's that person doing? And you're interested in their behaviour, you're a social scientist. So we're all doing it in our everyday lives, so why not learn a bit more about it? And we're always using our sociological imagination, but I'll get to that concept in just a little bit. I do want to give a bit of advice here, and this is a bit of a tangent, and if you have been one of my students in the past, you'll know I love going on tangents and love story times and things like that, and I think that's probably why a lot of people used to come to my classes, because I would tell them stories. I would also help them with their work and help them with sociology, but story times are fun. So this isn't really a story time, it's just a tangent. When you're at university, you should buy your textbooks. I know they're expensive. Download them if you can, buy secondhand, all of that. You should really get them because they are important. And I know there's always a lot of readings at university, and I remember I really struggled in first year to do all the readings. There was a lot because at this point in my life I didn't know how to skim read. I wasn't very good at that. I didn't know which parts to read and which parts not to read. And it took me a while to learn that I don't have to do all the readings. So when you get your textbooks, you know, that little square with some core information, read those, have a look at the references in the back, read whichever things you might seem important, it might have been talked about in class. And then if you've been given a big list of articles to read, what I like to do to get an idea of what it is first, read the abstract and then read the conclusion and then skim read throughout and find the important core information. Sometimes highlighting helps, all of that. So back to sociology. Where did sociology come from? The etymology stuff is quite hard for me. Oh, there's the Samoyed outside. He's so cute and fluffy. Sorry, getting distracted by the dogs again. As I was saying, the etymology stuff isn't something that I'm like super good at. I was never super good at history, but historical and socio-political, economical things are very important to sociology. So where did it come from? So Auguste Comte, I cannot pronounce his name, I apologize if that's not right. He wanted to understand, he wanted to gain a better understanding of social life, and this was around 1838. And his thoughts on society was that intelligent people were more likely to become increasingly secular, which we have seen a little bit in society. And he also said that intelligent people won't believe in God. However, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think religion has an important part to play in society, but this was what he was analysing at the time. He used the term sociology because another one, I can't quite remember, it might be Latin or French. He used the term sociology to refer to the scientific study of society, and he is known as one of the founding fathers of society. Not society, sociology. Sorry, I'm laughing because the founding fathers, it's just always men. Anyway, Comte believed and argued that society needs scientific knowledge based on evidence and facts to solve its problems, not speculation and superstition. His views were split into two overarching themes: dynamics and statics. Dynamics are the processes by which societies change, and statics are the processes which society endures. So what does that mean? In simpler terms, and from Dr. Barty from Beam College, dynamics study the social order, and statistics study the social changes. So sociology was eventually established throughout universities in America, and in the Western world, and all around the world eventually in the late 19th century. So it took a bit of time, and if we got into all of that history, it'd just take too much time today, so we'll just get to the nitty-gritty part of it. What's more interesting to me though is, according to Forbes.com, funding and interest for sociology and sociological research increased post-World War II. Why? Well, I like to think of World War II as a catalyst event, and I think most of you would as well. And what's a catalyst event is an event that causes like an emotional response. It could be uproar, tension, things like that. Obviously, there was a lot of propaganda going on at that time. People were unhappy, all of that sort of thing. So a catalyst event is something that happens in society or the world, and then following that event there are correlated events that happen afterwards. So it's not necessarily cause and effect, it's more of a correlation. Following World War II, there was geopolitical growing tensions, growing social justice movements, international collaboration, and I would also say just a genuine interest in wanting to learn about social change. Obviously, there was some weird and awful experiments and torturous things going on at this time. And the catalyst events are probably another whole sociological topic that would need another video, so we'll just leave it at that. Just think post-World War II and increased interest in sociology. I want to now return to the sociological imagination. So what's that? And again, I'm going back to Wikipedia, but we'll get to Mills in a second. So it's a term used in the field of sociology to describe a framework for understanding social reality that places personal experiences within a broader social and historical context. And I know you're still like, what does that mean? And I promise it's going to make a whole lot more sense soon. So the sociological imagination was coined by C. Wright Mills in 1959, where he wrote a book, The Sociological Imagination. It is a really good book, and I suggest you go and read it. He says that he is trying to emphasize the awareness of the relationship between personal experience and wider society. And so we begin to unpack this by thinking about social context and what is normal. And I use normal in quotation marks here because nothing is really normal. And what I mean by that is my normal is different to your normal. The person you're sitting next to, their normal might be different to yours. Your neighbor's normal is different, and so on and so on. Someone on the opposite side of the world will have a different social context and a different definition of what their normal is to your normal. So what's normal for you is not normal for someone else. So there is no way that we can say something is normal. Social context shapes us. It shapes what we do, how we behave, and where we end up in life. Furthermore, if we relate this back to the sociological imagination specifically, where one is in life can be looked at or analysed by looking at the broader or wider side of society and what's going on in society at the time. One example is one I've just taken from Wikipedia, so you can find this yourself as well. So, a single student who fails to keep up with the academic demands of college and ends up dropping out may be perceived to have faced personal difficulties or faults. However, when one considers that around 50% of college students in the United States specifically fail to graduate, we can understand that one student's trajectory is a part of the larger social issue. So to unpack that a little more, sure, the student might not be good at the content that they're learning. They might not be good at writing essays. Some people are good at essays, some people are good at exams. Some people are bad at both, and like vice versa and all of that. But what else is going on? Is the content too hard that's being taught? What are the other students finding about the class? Are they going to their tutorials or their lectures? All of that. What might be going on in their home life? All of that. You want to consider all of that when thinking about this person's specific failure. It's not about claiming that any outcome has entirely personal or entirely social causes. It's a bit of both, and it's about highlighting the connections between the two, or more than two, because often it's not just two factors. So, to break down this example even further, what you do affects society, and what society does, or what happens in society, affects you. But they are not cause and effect, as I said before. They are correlations, and correlations are really, really important. In my opinion, there's no possible way to find an absolute truth. You can disagree with me if you're in a different discipline. Maybe there are absolute truths in that discipline. But from a sociological lens or point of view, there is absolutely no possible way to find the absolute truth. There is always going to be multiple factors that influence something. Think about it this way. If someone is born into a cult and they are socialized in that cult, brought up into that cult as an adult, and that's their worldview, they don't know any different unless they leave. And then someone in the Western world, like myself, maybe you, is impacted by the world they were brought into and grew up in, And you can even take this further and think about things like media, what we might consume. Does what we watch, what we see, impact us in some way? So potentially yes. And now I want to get into some more important basics or fundamentals of sociology. So far we've been over a little bit of history of sociology, the definition of sociology, we've looked at social context, the sociological imagination. And that's a bit of Sociology 101 or first year level sociology. This is the stuff I learned in first year sociology and the stuff I used to teach to undergrad students. And now I just want to talk to you about 8 basic concepts of sociology. So these 8 things that I'm about to tell you are super important in sociology, and they're things that sociologists are interested in. The first basic concept is structure. So what is structure? Structure is made up of institutions, where people live in society, and how society is structured overall, hence the term structure. It's often interchanged with social change a little bit. And to go even further, the sociological concept of structure is that it's the framework of society. It influences individuals and groups through the relationship between institutions, so things like politics, economics, religion, and social practices. So these are things like behaviors, social norms, values. And thank you to Open Education Sociology Dictionary Online for this definition. I'll post all the references down below so you can have a read of them as well. The second basic concept of sociology is agency. And I'm going to go to Wikipedia again for this one because it's the most simplest term, and it's specifically the sociology article on agency, not agency in general. There's a few different ones, and I find this the easiest way to understand it. So agency is the capacity of individuals to have the power and resources to fulfill their potential. So for example, someone being able to marry whoever they want to marry and being able to do that, having money to do so, living in a society where it's legal to do so, all of that. The third basic concept of sociology is stratification. What's stratification, you might ask? Well, according to openstacks.com, stratification is specifically social stratification, and it's going to be a little bit overlapping with class when we get to that in a little bit. But it's where society and the people in society categorize people into specific categories or rankings based on income, wealth, education, power and family background, etc., etc. Think about things like low socioeconomic status, things like middle class, lower class, upper class. And as I said before, we'll get to class very soon. The fourth basic concept of sociology is society. And I just realized now that I probably should have made this number 1 because it's quite fundamental to sociology, being the study of society. So what is society exactly? Put simply, it's a group of people or individuals who are involved in continuous social interactions, or a large group who happen to share the same geographic territory and are often subject to the same social norms or political values and cultural values. The fifth basic of sociology is culture. Now this one's really broad, and I've got a quote here and I'll put it on screen here as well so you can read it, and also link the article down below so you can read from there as well. But this is something that I've always struggled to define just because it's so broad and there's so many different definitions out there. But in sociology specifically, and according to Cole 2019, it is a term that refers to a large and diverse set of mostly intangible aspects of social life. According to sociologists, culture consists of the values, belief systems, of language, communication, and practices that people share in common, and that can be used to define them as a collective. It also includes the material objects that are common to that group or society. It is distinct from the social structure and economic aspects of society, but it is connected to them, both continuously informing them and being informed by them. So thank you again to Cole 2019 for that quote. I just find that it just sums it up so well, especially when it's just such a hard thing to define. Class. So class is similar to social stratification, where people are categorized into different areas based on their income, wealth, education, and also occupation, or as Marx put it in the Communist Manifesto, the proletariat and the bourgeoisie, with the former being the work for all and the latter being the rich get richer. Usually the proletariat are the ones on wage incomes, and the bourgeoisie are the ones on a salary, and they often exploit the proletariat or the workers. And I just like to think of it as the rich gets richer and the poor get poorer. So seriously, check out Karl Marx's work on that, it's really interesting. The seventh basic is gender. And when I talk about gender, I really want to yell at people because a lot of the time you are wrong when you're talking about it. There is a difference between male and female terminology and men and woman terminology. And the Western world is also ingrained in these binary systems. So sex influences gender, but it's not just a binary system. There are more than two sexes, there are more than two genders, and some people don't identify with any of them, and that's okay. But please, if someone has a specific pronoun, use it. And if you're unsure, use they. That's the safe option. And sex and gender, I'm going to have to do a whole video on it because I can go on and on about it. But why is it important to sociology, and what is it? It's a social construct, and it's used to help categorize people. Gender is used, how do I say this? So gender is a social construct, and it's used to categorize people based on what their perceived sex is, not necessarily what their actual biological sex is. So again, why is it important to sociologists? So because it's a category, it's important. So the example I like to use here is the gender pay gap. So do men get paid more than women for the same job? Do men get paid more than women on average? Think about questions like that. Sociologists might go on to ask other questions or suggest that a person's gender or what they're perceived as by others may affect their life, and the same for what they choose to identify as. So one example is in the binary, when someone's having a baby, it's either a boy or a girl. It could be anything in between too. But what's common when you go to the shops and buying girls' toys is pink, purple, and then for boys, blue, trucks, things like that. And then what if the girl wants to play with the trucks? Anyway, I'm really going to have to do a whole video on this because I've just gone on a bit of a tangent again. And the last important basic thing for sociology is religion. And this could be a whole other video on its own as well, because there are so many religions out there and there is so much information on religion itself. And there are so many definitions of religion. What's an implicit religion? What's an explicit religion? What's Catholicism? What's Protestantism? All of that. And sociologists, especially myself as well, are interested in all types of religion, from the religions that go to church, the traditional types, to the religions that you might not be able to see, like new religious movements. Think when Judaism became popular because of that census. I really like an article from Bailey 2012 who defines the difference between explicit religion and implicit religion really well. I'll make sure I find that article and link it below. It's also my thesis, so have a read of that too. But to keep it simple for this video, let's go to Wikipedia and have a look at what sociology of religion is. So, for the purpose of sociology and this video, the sociology of religion is the study of the beliefs, practices, and organizational forms of religion, using the tools and methods of the discipline of sociology. So it just looks at everything from rituals, practices, how many times a person might go to church, why they go to church, are they going for a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose, all of that. So there you have it, 8 basic concepts of sociology. So to summarize, we've been over structure, agency, stratification, society, important, class, culture, gender, and religion. So that's like 8 overarching themes of sociology and what sociologists are interested in. And again, I'll put all the sources down below, so make sure you check them out. I will be doing some more sociology videos in the future because a lot of my friends have asked for them. I think I should do them, I guess, because I have so much knowledge on it. However, they do take a really long time to write, film, and edit because you've got to do so much research, and it's not just me doing a story time that's just in my brain already. But it's really rewarding, and I do hope that you learned something new today, or you found this video interesting. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Ka kite! Bye! Mwah.